And here we go. And I wanted to let everybody know that is joining today. First of all, it's amazing to be here with you. I just feel so honored and appreciated for all those that turned out today for the Conscious Economic Forum 2020. I do also want to say that there is a master recording going on here in the studio. It's rolling. So this means that if any time during this build you get disconnected or you see some glitching or anything like that, remember that we do have our own copy being created on this end, so you'll be able to see it later on, and it'll be in HD for you. We've come into something amazing. We blew through this year. We still got about 2.5 months, and we projected Sovereignty 2020 during this time, and boy, have we been on this journey. I will say that we have achieved spiritual sovereignty. For us, it is most important to do that on a metaphysical level first. And today is really about financial sovereignty. It's about how to get into alignment with where you need to be with your foundation, how you need to support those that are around you, and how to utilize the power and the energy that you have from your wisdom in order to gain a foothold in this world. So that way you stop having generation after generation of working and begging others and picketing and voting for others. Actually, and do something that actually allows you to put your DNA, and your lineage into the proper position through infinity to reign supreme in the consciousness. We always talk about how it's so imperative that you begin to learn how to control yourself before you're controlling others. And so this is what we're all about. Also, for those that don't know me, my name is Seven Bomar. I'm the developer and founder of Secret Energy. This is, for me, the world's first conscious, fully functional ecosystem. It is a horizontal build where we all have the opportunity to learn about each other more and to connect with ourselves and to go through that process based on what we've all learned in this journey. Now, today, I'm actually going to be really moving through this powerful energy, this force that I want to make sure that you inherit. I'm going to be moving through this in a way that I can get through this in 1 hour. So if you want to know a run time and how long this is going to take and how long you're going to be here, we're going to hold to that, and maybe even less. And to do that, that means that I need to be on point. And I have a presentation that I put together that I feel is important to share with you out of love and out of care of your family, your mothers, your sisters, your brothers, and all those you need to maintain. I realize that we're all doing something uniquely on this ship. We all have taken our stations. And in this life, I feel many have trusted me or entrusted me with the responsibility of actually knowing what's coming, to have that vision like an eagle, and to be able to make the proper adjustments and make the proper organization so that way we can get through that process as smooth as possible. I liken this unto also the process of bringing birth to something. We really, if you ever have the opportunity to bring birth to something, obviously our sisters are out there and they have the power to do that. And we also have a womb in our minds where the things that we create in the physical reality, when we bring them through completion, we can often see the labors or the things that we have to go through in order to actually bring that thing into life. And so all I can really say is, Lamaz, keep doing your breathing, because as we keep breathing through this, we're allowing ourselves to allow this energy to flow and not to become stagnant with us. I will say for sure, this is also one of the critical times, which is also why I chose to come in here into the space at this moment, because we are on the cusp of 2021. 2020 is a gift that keeps giving. I'm sure they all will agree, but there's been a lot happening this year, and it's totally transformed our lives, how we function in the physical, if you may, and what it's like to even get into our cars and go into the reality. Things have changed a bit, and we're adjusting with those change. And I always say that some will wish things to be the way that they were before. However, it's intelligent and smart and wise to adjust and adapt and begin to move on. Things are going to keep changing. This is the only thing we can guarantee about Earth. It's constantly moving. We're 70% water, so there's always going to be some level of change. And realizing how to adapt to that change is key. So this is about adapting to change in the world as it currently is. The information I'm going to be delivering is relevant to right now. It's not from 3,000 years ago, even though I'm going to actually start there really briefly. It's for right now and what we're seeing in our reality today with the emergence of digital technologies and also fintech, which is, of course, financial technologies. So I'm going to go ahead and get right into this. Now, again, I mentioned it earlier. It's time out for sure for us just bringing awareness, especially verbal awareness. It's great. It's worked to a certain degree, but we can clearly see right now what we also have to be able to do is build solutions. That's the actions that come with the words. The thoughts and actions are equally at strength with one another. I'm not putting one in front of the other as if it's greater than the other. It's very important for you to really, really consider what you're doing before you do it. And like unto that, you also can't stay in consideration too long because you need to make a move because time draws nigh. It's something that holds us all accountable. I often laugh in thoughts about an idea of a world with no time. And, when would you have to go somewhere? When would you even have to wake up? So time brings us a certain level of urgency, and it's a check back system, of course, when we look in the mirror every day and you see, yes, I'm moving through time. Or you look at your children and you see them growing up. You look at trees that you've planted and things that you've sown, and you see it starting to reap what it is that you put in place. But this also lets you know that you're also moving along. And because this journey is infinite, you need to know how to move through all of the spaces. And that's just simply by adapting a blueprint here. I personally believe that that is what the journey here on Earth is about. Being on average and max at 72 years of experience, which is just a drop in the bucket for an ocean of infinity, that you're here to actually learn something, like a universe being a university. And once you learn that blueprint, you'll be able to utilize it throughout the cosmos. This is an important lesson. This is something that we at least have to do once. And you're going to leave here. I have not met beings that have been here for thousands and thousands of years in the physical. Definitely in the spiritual, but not in the physical. So we will go on from this. And it's important to really begin to make the plans that are going to need to be in play in what I call Club Afterlife. Now, again, the begging, the picketing, and this approach at actually getting what we want in this society, what we know, even co-creatively and co-collectively, that we need to see ourselves flourish, like schools for conscious children, etc., always coming at that from an approach of, hey, someone donate to me. Hey, someone give something to me. Hey, cash at me this. It oftentimes has others trying to figure out what is the value of what you're bringing. And if you're putting your heart into it, then that's priceless. So you could never be paid or rewarded for what it is that you have to accomplish when you set your true intentions. So this also means that when you're not awarded for that, or you're not given the proper funding to go forth with your commitment of what you want to do for the universe, this could really, really put one into a lower vibratory frequency, or a distorted frequency. I'll say it that way, because it feels like you're not getting the proper reception that you need in life from what it is that you so passionately feel greatly about. And so this is a time to approach this differently. What I'm going to present today is about how, as spiritual beings, if we want to use that term, the thing that we should have is discernment and also wisdom. And if money was more complicated than that, if money was more complicated than metaphysics and the creation of the body, then it would never be here, because nothing more complicated or greater than us exists in this reality. And so because of that, that means if we can start figuring out ourselves, if we can start figuring out what's going on in our body, if we're taking these breaths now, we're starting to feel ourselves and utilize these supplements and, go on these diets and start to do the cleansing process, and we're feeling the results of that. We must also go into analysis, especially within our financial fields, and make sure we're applying that same level of knowledge and wisdom. So today, I'm going to equip you and I'm going to arm you with certain levels of awareness, so that way, as you go forward in the future, that you can make the proper decisions. Also, I'm going to give you a proposal towards the end of this build about coming in with us and actually going forth with a project that we're just calling Automated Wealth. And the reason why I call it Automated Wealth is because if you didn't get the memo, all the movers and shakers, the people who are sending you all the books to buy, giving you all of the courses to actually read about how to make money, I'm a millionaire, and here's my 5 ways of how I became a millionaire, those people are no longer working. And it's not that they're no longer working because they don't have something to do. They're no longer working because all of their work is now automated. That as if overnight, Automation has come into the field, and many are already equipped. Many business owners, many industry leaders are not only equipped, but are also rushing to be equipped to move completely away from what you would call a 9-to-5 or a job or a responsibility in order to invest all that time within themselves. I see it very imperative that we lose the state of mind that we feel like you got to work for everything, and that just applies to us going out to somebody's job and removing ourselves from the time that we can spend with our children and our loved ones and the time that we can spend on ourselves. Even if you were removed from the job, you still have work to do on self. But unfortunately, if you're at the job, it leaves less time to work on self. So I think it's foolish to keep investing lots of time into these industries and into these fields that have nothing to give us. And then actually taking that time back and then being able to invest it in ourselves at this stage because we need it. So this means that you would have to figure out automated wealth too. You would have to figure out a way to get your time back. I just looked at a presentation that was delivered towards the melanin dominant from the president in office. His promise was a platinum plan, as if we're all rappers at this point and we're all trying to go platinum. There was an offer of more jobs, as if it's just an offer to be more of a slave. It's very interesting psychologically how all this came about and how all of it works. But when you really think about that, if the best thing they tell us that we need is to get another job, and this is how they're benchmarking their success, it only says that they're benchmarking their success off based on whether or not you're going to be a slave. And it's time out for this. It's time out for intelligent beings to be doing this kind of thing, because if we're saying it's 2020 and we see it clearly, we need to actually see clearly what is the solution. I always feel like the solutions exist before the problem, but I know for sure I need to see the problem first before I can offer a solution. So I'm going to show you something here. And I'm going to begin now with what I feel like is parts of the problem, parts of the solution, but really a top-down approach at realizing what's been happening in this reality. Because you see, money is not old. If you go 3,000 years ago, you'll find that money was still there in some shape or form. And so also it shows that on this planet specifically, money has always governed whether or not you can spend time with your children, whether or not you can spend time with your family, or whether that needs to be done in the fields. Or money has always been a benchmarker for time. So let me show you this. Also, I'm going to pop up from here from time to time over here in the corner, but just to keep you focused on what is being presented, I'm actually going to remove myself from the frame. Also saying this, that these are what you can say is jewels. I don't even want to call them opinions. Jewels that you decide which ones you want to wear. I'm giving you knowledge, wisdom, and awareness, but you need to choose what kind of filters that comes across in your own consciousness. Some of the things I say you may or may not agree with. Fortunately, I've stayed out of the metaphysical framework enough within this presentation for you to go and Google anything that I'm mentioning here and go check it for yourself, and you'll find it to be true. I would hope that all of our teachers do that before they present anything to us. As you know, you're here at the Conscious Economic Forum. This is the future of energetics, and I am your host today, Seven Bomar. Let us first think about and dial into, when we use this term God, and in God we trust, who is that God? Who is that God that, if there's a baby suffering, does not come to their rescue? Who is that God that will watch a world in terror and struggle, dealing with bullies and oligarchs, and would not come to intercede? Who is that God that would delay even our own great grandmothers and grandfathers' prayers of connection and the things that they need to have done here? Who is that God? And is it possible that this term God even, which we've already synchronized as a mention to a king, is really about a specific agenda on this planet, which has now become the governance for many, billions, to how they can live their life. So I'm going to show you that throughout history, that the God has always been tied into what we call today money. Our first example here is the first letter in the English language. The English language is actually not a new language. It is taken from many ancient texts, hieratic, demotic script, even Ogham script, many scripts that are thousands and thousands of years old, Tamil. And when you examine these scripts and you look at the emphasis on the vibratory frequency of the first letter, it is in this time A. And the symbol A actually is that of a head of cattle. Now, of course, there are astronomical reasons for this. That is the as above. But the as below comes out as being an auroch, or what we know as a cow. Because back in the day, how many cow you had, how many bovine and oxen you had, determined your wealth. Even all the way up until modern times, as you'll see that no money really disappears, it just becomes used less. As the new energy emerges, you find even those in Texas, the Hicks, had gotten themselves rich on cattle. But even before then, in Alkebulan, which is now called Africa, cattle was how you determine who you were and your status inside of the village at a certain point. And so it's just a word to first realize that the symbols, even in our language, are tied directly to first currency. And as if the two are together, we found during that time people continuously worshiping what was a cow goddess. So it establishes that this idea that God is money is not new and does not belong to this current regime we're under. It is ancient. Because in people's mind, the things that can change their life is God. And now there's a lot more to this, obviously. There's a lot of things that I can say about this. As I said, this starts even getting into the stars. It gets into the womb. But today, especially since there's many on here that, they're just here to get the information and see what it's going to do for their lives. I'm just going to leave you with this for your own investigation to research why the A is an auroch and the B in the English language is a bovid, and how that connects to wealth, and how that also connects to the ancient gods that people worshiped when money started becoming the god. And even when you look in history, you'll find Moses, you'll find all of the Sumerian figures all having horns on their head for this very reason. Let us then utilize this knowledge and awareness and see if it's true. Let's test it. Have we literally begun to progress through ages based on what is the mode of wealth? We hearken then first to the golden age. And as you see in the notes here, we have gold-faced gods. We have gold coins in circulation. We have metalsmith or smithery as the number one job and position, to be able to shape, form, and fashion a sword or a plowshare or a bow or anything of that nature out of metal, put you immediately as the ruler and the leader of the world. An ode to those who had copper weapons against those who were using steel. We find in the golden age that it's all about metal and the transmutation of metals. And this is also the time where the knowledge of alchemy really begins to make its advent on the earth. So we see it's true there. Now I'm going to fast forward because you can take your own time to go through every single age, the industrial age, etc. But I want to fast forward right away into the petroleum age because some may still not see this. The petroleum age was the time where, especially within industry, there was a huge issue, and it was based on scalability and production. How many wooden stoves can we really make with all of this metal and wood that need to be inside of them and how heavy they are? How many people can actually own one of these objects, and what would the price be if the resources are so scarce to begin to crank out thousands and hundreds of thousands of these things? So the world had started to become stagnant in its industry of manufacturing until the introduction and the awareness by chemists that you can take petroleum, which of course is oil, and turn it into plastic. Many don't think about this revolution of how almost overnight something that would cost you $100 now was literally $2. How things that you could never have found their way into your house because injection molding and the use of oil, especially also as a fuel, because all of these things have always the same underlining potentials. They are power within themselves. That great auroch can pull large loads and can till fields for days and nights. So they have power. So, of course, petroleum in itself does have an innate power and an implosion where it can be used as a fuel. And just like that, credit cards, which are plastic, are put into our hands. Even our great divine feminine begins to actually enjoy putting plastic in her body. And then we find ourselves in the face of what we now know as fiat currency, but in itself is still backed on petroleum, which is why even we're here today having this conversation, because there's been a major blow to petroleum. People are not driving and flying as much as they used to, and it is killing an energy, okay? And of course, many asked for this. Remember, we constantly are projecting and manifesting things. So we asked for a cleaner world, and in that, we asked for oil to stop being used as much and for its death to come, the death of a god. And just like that, now people are not really driving. Planes that take tons of fuel are not really flying. And the overall emission level of the world is down exponentially. And you wouldn't have to be a scientist to know that. But simultaneously, why this is happening, because many are still connected to that energy that is dying, they may find themselves into quite a predicament that they may not even believe that they manifested if they're not aware of how energy works. So also with this theory, because we need to use these kind of models, if you may, and these kind of formulas to be able to read in the future. The real time machine is that of something that understands mathematical equations and has been able to map every single situation out to a quotient. That is actually AI. However, if again we use a formula and the formula is correct, we can use it on anything. So this will allow us to look into the future and say, so if we're going to leave this petroleum age, which is already gone, and we went into the computer age, and we're going to now leave this computer age or digital age, and it's almost gone. Now, remember, there will be remnants that always remain, like a layer. But where are we going next? Is there anyone that can sit down for one moment, stop the reality, stop all of the experiences, come into self, center self, and say, where are we going? And then what we find is that if we use this formula, it will tell us that we're actually not going, but now coming into the age of Aether. This is ether. This is when the world begins to figure out, as it's already doing, the innate power within each person, that we actually have a field of energy around us, that our connection with each other, our communication, our intelligence, our DNA, the very fiber of how we function in our way of being is now coming up as the new God, if you may. And it is manifesting itself in all ways, in different shapes and forms. As I mark here, these are the gods of Aether, We're moving now into the air after 2020. We're leaving the earth, the distorted fire, and we're going into the air. And then this aether, this superfluous, you can't even see it. You have to know how to feel it. And as we see the emergence of, as I said, Apple, who has a concept, when you understand what an apple is a pentagram. When you cut an apple down the side, there's 5 seeds there, and it makes a perfect pentagram. And then you understand why you have 5 fingers, why phi sounds like 5. And most importantly, with these 5 senses, what would happen if someone bit out of that apple? And now a crucial part to the balance of that phi, 72 degrees times 5, 360 degrees, is now off, causing it to go upside down. We have an Android. These are the devices that you're now holding in your hand. We have an Android that has an idea that everyone should be cybergenetically inclined and embedded. This was the father of AI is cybergenetics, and that this AI would be in preference. In fact, they would even want you to become like an AI or an android. These are just the beginning of the age of Aether, which sometimes looks like a Blade Runner flick. But if you know how to clean up your projections and gain your sovereignty, what you receive is what your parents always wanted you to have, what your ancestors wanted you to have, your allotment, which was to know here discernment. Learn here your preferences, what you truly, really want to live the rest of your existence with. And they do that bringing us into a reality based on contrast, where if it's light, we only understand light through darkness. If it's evil, we only understand evil through good. And in this, when you end this journey and continue to move on, that you've gained a recollection of what you want in your experience. Because just like a dream, a lucid dream to be specific, you'll be able to go into the next stage and call up anything you want, as long as you know how to manifest it. Let's speak on now the digital age of finance, because this is the most pronounced emergence of the next current, or the current that we're currently dealing with. I first want to begin by letting you realize why we have to get ready to make a move. There are so many beings that I've seen come in and out of this framework called Earth. Even some of the elders that were in Mount Shasta that expected certain things to happen. They waited their whole lives for it, and now they're gone. Many of them died and were on their deathbed and did not see it. This means that this is a high stakes game. It's very serious. Just because you think that something is supposed to happen doesn't mean that it will. You have to know what you're talking about. You have to know the formulas, and you have to know what our great mother gave us, which was the ability to adapt. When you look at every single thing in the reality that is still here, it's here because it adapted. The human being is a highly adaptive force. But if we lose that adaptation through domestication, then oftentimes we're not even able to stand in the roles that we need to be in, which is as a foundation for those coming after us. Someone has to take responsibility for the DNA, the actual codes that run through us. When we create things, whether these are children or even companies, we embed our DNA in it. I've already proficiently explained this. If you want to check it out, it's one of my previous recordings on the page, but I explain in depth how DNA is moving through everything, and we're inheriting what's in others' DNA, even from a simple tap on a doorknob, even from listening to another person, you're getting transferred their DNA. And these industries the technological industries are even pretending like this is something that they're just finding out. So let's do a quick evaluation of the petrodollar. As I said, the dollar is not just backed on nothing, which is something that comes across in the let's say in the cryptocurrency fields in the chats, there's a lot of mention towards that the dollar is not backed on anything. And that's kind of like a yeah and no. It is actually backed on something. It's backed on oil. And because of that, we have a couple situations going on that mean that the dollar is going to be hurt. One of them is the competition. As you know, oil deposits are not only in the United States, they're in all different places of the world. And the leading reason generally behind most warfare is to control the energy or the god. So there has been alignments and partnerships, as you know, as the U.S. has made with Saudi Arabia, which has one of the highest oil deposits. In this time, especially close to the pandemic, we had a scenario where there was like a every man for himself going on within the groups like OPEC that regulate exactly how much oil is sold for. And in that period, there was a huge sell-off of oil. It hit the stock markets, it hit everywhere. And also during that time, many of our friendly competitors, as they refer to themselves, sold off large volumes and stocked up all the tanks around the world of countries and their petrol reserves for a fraction of what it cost. At this stage, we're also still in the heat of the pandemic, where just like many other things in the past, it's not just for one thing. It has not just to do with this so-called virus, but many changes that are being made within the system and how we function, different updates, changes of power, a transference of wealth, etc., is all happening. But in this, we find there is again another blow to the petrodollar because people are not moving around. They're not consuming. They're not going to their normal activities. And then finally, we have this infinite outpouring called the stimulus, which, since money is energy, it's very similar to giving someone a, what do they call it, an effervescent shot or the IPV shot, the shot where it's like a stimulant just to get you out of the dangerous situation. But it's also going to extremely impact the body or the nation or the corp or the corporation. So this trillions of dollars that is going out actually it has to be counted. It has to be held accounted for. So these are three big blows to this dollar. And while you haven't seen it fluctuating yet, a real person with wisdom with the time machine knows what's coming. It's never time to prepare for something when it happens. It's never time to prepare for something when it happens. You're already going to be caught up in the frenzy. It's time now to make the moves so that way you're impervious to whatever occurs. That's maturity. And that's what our parents want to teach us. That's what sovereignty is. Sovereignty is that process of being responsible for your own power. Again, we learned this first spiritually. We realized so many humans were connected to an invisible God, an energy that was so external and outside of them that they had not related to, that truly they had no power. They had given it away. And so too, we have to also see that electricity is power. So if you're not controlling your electricity and you're not controlling your energy signature and your consumption, then you have not made it to sovereignty yet on the physical level. But of course, as above, so below. So first consider your spiritual affiliations. Next, we have a scenario that comes in front of us because this is still big business, as you'll see here in a moment. Scalable money. What does this mean? For those that understand business, you know that the huge trend now is if a company is to survive, it must become scalable. This means if I get 100,000 customers tonight, does this end business for me overnight? Some people never think about this. They just want to be successful, and they never realize what success comes with. Even in a simple store, if all of a sudden you had 100,000 customers, all your employees become run down, your stock becomes exhausted, people begin to lose interest because they cannot get served. So it can literally become the end of your design, your business, your company, your projection overnight if it's not scalable, if it can't apply to a large range. So if you got big plans, You should always consider scalability. And because the beings that we're dealing with do have big plans, as they've consistently proved, they found there was an issue with printed paper money. This issue came up just recently, about 6 or 7 months ago, when there was a craze that happened where everyone thought that we were low on money. And banks even started posting in their window, "We have no money." Now, beside an all-out run on the bank, because they were actually closed, many didn't read that it wasn't paper money that they were out of. It was the change, the nickels, the pennies, the copper, the metal. It's not scalable. There's not enough of it to put in everyone's hands. Like, how many pennies are in your house? They're under the carpet. They're down in the couch. When do you ever take them even back in and say, "Hey, here's 1,000,000 pennies. Give me $10. What happens is that the metal that money is printed on is not printed with also is not scalable. And this was the first red flag for them. So they launched head on with this idea to create scalable money. And this is all rather recent. But first, what was created, and you can Google it yourself, is CDBC. CDBC is the first digital dollar. It is taken from the research that was done with operations such as Bitcoin. And that research rendered that the process of implementing digital currency into the world was or could be a success. And then also, you have to think about when stimuluses are being given out, there can't be a consistent here, take the cash. It has to be here, take the paper, even when you're going to the bank. And even more importantly, here, take the digit. So as we've even seen now, systems such as EBT, which is welfare, and UBI, which is a universal basic income, which is already being demoed out in quite a few countries right now, are all paid digitally. And also in some of those countries, there is a limitation to what you can buy. Just like with the EBT and welfare cards, you cannot buy Nikes with them. It just comes up in the computer, not applicable. These systems that they want to put people on, where they give you a basic income and still govern if you can make more money, et cetera, and have more control in your life for the benefits that they're giving you, also have limitations like you can only buy 2 rolls of toilet tissue with this. You can only buy 1 gallon of milk with this. And this is what they're foreseeing as scalable money under CDBC. We also know scalable money has hit the market in the form of cryptocurrency, where regardless to coins like Bitcoin and all the conspiracy, you have coins like XRP, which belong directly to the banks. That's Ripple. As they can transfer billions of dollars overnight, when before the system of banking, it was impossible to do something like that, especially with the level of anonymity that they move with. As you're going to see later on in this conversation, with everything being tracked on Coinbase with large transactions, you got to imagine those are the ones that are published. So how do you move billions around without being seen? That's scalable money, anonymous money, because sovereignty means private. It means that you cannot ask me why I'm buying this and where I got the money from. That as a sovereign, how dare you? Like a big Greta Thunberg, how dare you? I just want to take that soundbite. How dare you? So sovereignty means private. So there are sovereigns in this space, and they're not all what you would say is conscious and spiritual. There are sovereigns who know already not to put themselves into the hands of this system. Their mother taught them that. Their grandmother taught them. Their great-grandmother, great-great-grandfather. They all have proof that putting yourself into this cunning, conniving system is a gross error. And overnight, you can lose everything you had, like Venezuela. And now they have even currencies emerging that they're impervious to the downfall of a general economy. They will not be affected. They are private. New clubs opening up where new forms of current are being transacted, so that way when things start sloping down, that everything is the same for them and they can get ready to buy it off the ground. And what's even more interesting is that they put that in front of everyone to be able to benefit from, knowing that people would be so ignorant and so distracted in this time that they wouldn't even give it a second look. We also have a major update to the banking system, whether you see it or not. You may see it in when PayPal now wants to transfer money to your bank that they can do it instantly. It's not that because PayPal is just a digital wallet itself. It's not, or electronic wallet. It's not like they didn't always want to have that kind of fast service. It's that the API, if you may, or the all-point integration of money and banks has been extremely archaic. I had a long conversation with a financier about this, and he was explaining how there was a digital and technical limitation within the actual system of banking and routing, and they had made a huge update, a 3.0, if you may, to the banking API, allowing institutions to begin to move money in large amounts rapidly. So they're scaling money. While all this is happening, as I said, we caught a glimpse of what someone won a Nobel Peace Prize trying to prove to everybody under the title of game theory, which is that actually people are the greatest value. And wherever people are is where all of the currency will go. You would think that is a no-brainer, but it's basically saying that it has nothing to do with money. You don't actually have to buy people. If you have enough people, there is already enough wealth there. There is wealth in numbers. So what we saw, and this is a snapshot from December 17, 2017. Boy, it'd be lovely to go into a time machine and just close all your positions on this date. Bitcoin reached $20,000. Here's what you have to ask yourself. If $1 is worth $1, but one Bitcoin is worth $20,000, who's stronger? Well, maybe that'd be a far reach for you if you don't know about digital currencies. So let me put it like this. If a British pound is still worth, I believe, let's say $1.30, somewhere around there, and even a euro is over the dollar, who do you think has more power? See, that's the system. That's not what they let people on to about, is that when we say it's one of them, and then we make that one equal to the other ones, and then we adjust its value, that equates to who has the most power. So many don't know what is actually behind Bitcoin. And I'm not here to elaborate on that today. Who bought Bitcoin? Who was testing Bitcoin? Why? What do hash power machines and hashing codes do, especially at that rate where everyone, or not everyone, but quite a few people have supercomputers now inside of their houses? These are hashing machines that actually can hash out algorithms in order to create Bitcoin. And they tell everybody, hey, do you know that's just for to make it safe and secure. When really it's the actual network that AI is utilizing in order to be able to do its computational equations. Computational power takes real electricity. The more a computer works, the more power it draws down. There's even a calculation for that. How much energy does a chip need to be able to calculate certain things, especially in the future? So there was an advent for many different reasons of Bitcoin, as I explained. Another one was, how can we distribute and balance the load of energy? Meaning, yes, they could go, and they have many facilities where there are massive supercomputers processing and utilizing hash power. The issue with this is it's just in that geographic. And to build a true grid, you must spread it out. So in many cases, many that were hashing Bitcoin, or mining as it's called, those mining computations were used to keep fueling the formulas that AI needed to actually begin to make the equations about how to shift and move around the future and what exactly needs to be done. So it's always deeper. And here's the thing, because some will be afraid of it. Well, why should I? There'll be a lot of that going on in the confused mind. Why should I even get involved? How should I get involved? All the time that's the enemy. Why would I? And if you look at underneath all of that, what you'll see is actually it's something that has power. And anything that has power in the wrong hands gets abused. Look at now even the concept of who God really is. Someone has done all the PR on that. They now have a monopoly on when people say God, what image comes to mind. So, of course, what they're doing and what they're saying has nowhere near the connectivity or the congruentness with what a type of concept like that would truly be. However, that's what everybody believes because it is being manipulated. So I will say for the record, the same thing about technology. It is a tool, but in a very powerful tool. And because of its power, when someone is welding it that doesn't have everyone's best interest in mind, then everyone feels its destruction. So just to be very clear, either it could be a sword to run it through your brother or sister, or it could be a plowshare to till up the soil to plant some seeds for the entire family. But don't blame the metal, is what I'm saying. Blame the fashioner. So now as we keep growing forward, because this is specifically about how things are emerging in the realm of sovereignty and where do we really see our children going? Because this system, as I've revealed for everybody to check out Charlotte Iserbyt's work, but it's shown that for hundreds of years, our children have been seen as now the cattle, if you may. And in this case, the children are the gods. They are our future. They're who we're passing the synthesis of our DNA on to so they can become the sum total of who we are and then put their own unique spin on it ad infinitum. So this structure has a greater interest in the children than it does in people that it already has inside of the system, i.e. adults. So I had to do a segment here on the future of employment and what jobs really look like in the future, just to refresh everyone's memory once more that when our grandparents were told that it was going to be computers that they needed to learn, they scoffed at that. And they said, I ain't going to learn about no computer. And even when they tried to use it, they couldn't adapt to it very well. It was even from a motor level. Like some of these kids are in VR, and for the standard adult, they get in VR, and VR is disorientating for them. They feel motion sickness. So literally, you have adaptations that are coming that are more geared for the genetics of the child. However, if you want to still shield your children as they're going to go through this process, you need to be completely aware of what's going to happen to them if they find themselves having to depend on this same system that you're depending on. As you know, the advent here of technology is overwhelming. Even me, myself, being involved in technology since I was young, building computers from scratch when we were dealing with Apple IICs, 386 math coprocessors, K-Pro, computers that you never even heard of or never see again. Big floppy disk as big as your laptop. When that came in, it was something about computers and me. I feel like it started in Kemet. However, not everybody is like that. And even though I have had a fascination with technology and seen many of its benefits, I cannot say at all that I have a fascination with things like programming, sitting in front of a computer all day, doing lines of code. Any of those kind of activities. It's like that was not the fun part of dealing with technology. However, all the emerging jobs, as it's known as STEM, that's science, technology, and engineering and mathematics, all of the new jobs are promoting that the children have to know about this. So you can imagine for the average kid, now me, I actually like technology and that is boring to me. So for the average kid, this is extremely boring. But there are many kids that have already been inducted into this. If you drop down into India and see what happened after the huge startup bubble, if you drop down in Singapore and you go into these places, what you'll see is that you have thousands of children with engineering degrees already, ready to jump into these fields. And even the companies are already building all of their city-like corporations in those places. So what I'm saying is just because your kids don't like this and don't want to do this, and just because you don't like this and don't want to do this, it doesn't mean that they haven't already found who does. In a world of billions of people, see, this is the whole thing anyway. Like with the stars and the actors, like there's going to be somebody, they can go to 10 people and the person would say, well, I can't do that. That role is degrading to me. I could not do that. That would be kind of like a betrayal to my people. I cannot do that. That would break my moral bearing. They can go to 100 people and they may say that, but then there's going to be that one that says, so when you want me to do it? And they're going to put that one in front of everybody, like we all should follow that person. So this is always redundant in this reality that because this is a full spectrum, you're going to always find people that just because you don't want to take it doesn't mean somebody else won't. This is like the drug dealer's excuse. You ask them, why you sell drugs, man? You sell it to your own people. Man, shout it. If I didn't sell it, somebody else will be selling it to them. So as I see it, I'm just getting the money. And then I get the money. I give some to my grandma. I try to help the hood a little bit. And this is the excuse. So they're going to be over there in their terms. Well, I understand that there's extreme ethical issues with the Palantir deployment of the weaponry system and AI having the decisions of whether or not it's going to eliminate and exterminate humans on the battlefield. However, I just feel like the formula N42-319 still states that this may be something probable for the future. And as a electronic engineer and scientist and computer generated engineer, I really feel like that this is the steps that we should make in the future. See, so you're going to always have somebody jumping up, actually giving a thumbs up on things that, hey, we still have to look deeply into all of this and see what aspects of this should we be engaged in? What part of this, or if any parts of it, and what is the full ramifications of that? So that's also what it would make it extremely difficult for me to even come in here today after watching the conscious community and seeing, what are the conversations about? Nobody's talking about these bills that keep going up higher and higher and these expensive ass organics. Nobody's addressing the elephant in the room, Gaia TV shoveling in $30 million a month, still not one conscious school free for the kids. You see what I mean? So nobody wants to toe that line. And at the end of the day, even when you bring awareness to it, you're just, it's like entertainment for people. So you got to build solutions, but you need to know what you're building solutions around. So we have STEM. Obviously, artificial intelligence is here. These are jobs like machine learning and computational skills and data set integration. Boring. You do it. This is not, I'm water. I want to run around. I want to dance. I want to connect. You know what I mean? I don't want cyber eye and, feel all deadened out and be all malnurtured sitting in front of a screen all day. But see, that is their plan. And the plan doesn't sound like something that you want to do and doesn't sound like what your kids or what you should necessarily want your kids to do. Now, if they take an interest into this, because we're full spectrum, we got to have folks everywhere. So if your kid is just a natural genius at this and this is what he wants to do, by all means, let him go at it because he'll probably create many solutions. However, forcing a child to do this and it's not even their uniqueness is grueling. And then what's left? Where are the next? Where are the next? Where are the other jobs? Soft skills. This is their term. We need to make sure that Dante is not really getting rude. We need to teach him more soft skills so he understands that when someone asks him for something in the job place, that he doesn't have to catch an attitude and that he needs to be here at the proper time. These are soft skills. This is basically where we completely domesticate everybody who doesn't have one of these technological jobs to make them to be able to be dealt with and to do what we tell them to do and to not cause disruption. This is what they're even telling my brother that has been working with kids in inner city youth, that they want him to make sure that these kids have what their preferences are when you're coming in front of these big organizations and you're trying to see if they really want to assist in this issue that we're dealing with in the inner city. They say, yes, but we want you to basically domesticate everybody and turn against your people too. Get them ready for soft skills, customer service, and packing packages and loading drones. Everybody else on UBI. Any idea of sovereignty out of the picture. And you're right here. I can give you 2 years when this is going to run out. But you're still right here in a time in which it has not completely happened yet, and you can still make a move. And that's why I'm here today, to explain to you why you would need to make a move and what are your options if you don't want to all of a sudden go and get a degree in STEM and sit in front of a computer and program all day after you've just figured out how to get full lotus complete and a full circulatory breath. UBI, of course, is here. It's not emerging. It is the solution for everybody else. It should just be called EBE, everybody else. Whoever does not fit inside of that profile that they're looking for to stabilize them, it's UBI. There's purchase regulation, as I mentioned earlier. This is when I tell you what you can and cannot buy. There is a grading system, just like China is using right now, where infractions such as not having the shot or too many traffic tickets or these kind of things actually take you down in points. So that way you cannot receive as much in the UBI system. And then, of course, there's the income regulation in itself, which is like they do on welfare. If you're on UBI, you should not be hustling. You should not be taking money under the table over somewhere and having some juice factory going on over there selling juices. If you're getting any of our benefits, once again, our brother Yusuf El had bought, some real clarity about what it means to be a citizen and the difference between United States capitalized versus United States of America capitalized, and what those two different companies are really up to. And how truly that when you accept the benefits, when you're utilizing these numbers that they're giving you and you start accepting the benefits, like being able to transact, that there's things that they need from you, such as putting you inside of many of their different petitions and oaths and equality factions and all of that stuff. It basically means control. And you still have some of your most illustrious people, some of the people you even call your mentors and fans, going out, or that you're the fans of, going out and telling you to go and vote, where you don't even get a lesser of two evils. This is not how we're going to roll with this. Conscious community, we can't do it like this. Like, it's been 10 years and I just been gaining my bearing, basically, like dealing with all of these different things that are happening and watching certain stuff, and also awakening more to it, going on my own journey, still breathing, learning knowledge and turning it into wisdom, and seeing the reflections of my brothers and sisters and what they're doing, and seeing that as a reflection of myself, seeing us as a total community and how much we've progressed. And all I'm here to deliver is, for a moment, to everybody a quick clarity on, hey, you, first of all, may be affected by MK Ultra possibly. And behind the scenes, this is what's really going on. And even when you wake up, you may be like everybody else, insisting that it will never happen, insisting that we're going to stop it, doing that whole haughty, egoistic, not me, when in a few years, you will still be doing what it is that you were told, what you said you would not be doing by force. It's happened to our parents. It's happened to our great-grandparents. When was the last time that we had a chance to stand up on our feet and actually even be able to comprehend what I'm even being able to bring forth right now? If you're at a 70% comprehension of what I'm even saying right now, you're a damn genius. If you want to hear that, I'm telling you right now, because a lot of folks could look at something like this and just dumb out. And also, if you don't understand what I'm saying, This is also a big opportunity for you not to have to try to study the universe, which would be like 1 billion books, and actually get a quick, concise, here's a dossier for you. I'm in service to you right now. Here's a dossier of exactly what you may not be looking at. And then also I'm going to bring you a solution, because I also don't have time to be sitting here all day making you feel like it's all over when it's really not. Nothing in infinity is. And that I just want to take up your time and get up some fucking likes. Excuse my language. Get some likes and some subscribes. And now when I'm done, I got to come up with the next thing again to get the same likes and subscribes. That would be madness. So I'm here for a specific reason, to just highlight to you why you've been also holding your station as a pillar, continuously holding up the vibration of the co-creation and doing your responsibility. This is my responsibility to bring this to you. So, as I mentioned before, the automated wealth has emerged. You already saw it. It was getting a little scary for everybody as they kept showing the commercials of these robots back there working in a factory. So much to a point where people kind of start thinking that the robots weren't really working in the factory anymore. And we went beyond all of that. And then now, we're all ethical. It cracks me up when I see one of these TED Talks and they're talking about some of their new inventions like CRISPR, which can edit DNA right in line. Right? And then they always say, well, there's some ethical issues and I'm here today to explain that there's going to be some ethical issues that we have as we go forward with using this emerging technology. But truly imagine someone not having cancer, and imagine someone hearing their child for the first time. So we really need to come to this forum and actually begin to have this conversation. And I'm like, in Russia, there is no conversation. In other places around the world, they have access and are also a part of these same companies, and they don't need to go in front of no bureau, no committee, no anybody to ask for permission to do anything. As I've brought up, the word Soviet means unelected official. This means you don't choose. All that choosing who's in office, that's all a facade. That's all to get you to feel like you got a position and a place in it so they can get you even deeper into this illusion. We don't choose or elect any of these people. When they want to cheat, they cheat. You could have 1 million on one side and 1 on another. And if that's the one they want, they're going to choose that one. That's how they roll. But they have a plan to just continuously psychologically put you into a dreamland where through a series of events, they make you think things that are not true. Like even these people, these politicians have they want to help us at all, period. They can't, as I said, they cannot even be accepted into the guilds they're in if they were helping you and they were doing something good for you. They'd be ejected and demoted right away and absolved and put at best on, what do they call it? Exile. They would be put on exile at best. So when they deceive you and you believe it, that's what gives them more rank, because they're like, oh, yeah, you got that one across. Look at them. They even believe you're going to do that for them. Platinum plan. Whose word was that? I love it. Let's go platinum, baby. They even play with you. Automated wealth is here. They don't have a plan of working with a bunch of people because they see people as not scalable anymore. So, of course, we got to put on the gloves. Actually, in this case, if those are gloves, I meant the brass knuckles, excuse me. We got to put on the brass knuckles for a minute. Now, Crunchbase, as I've explained to everyone, if you want to know, I told you earlier then that the God is the money somehow, and people have gotten into that. That's just what's happening. You're not going to change it. So if you know what's happening with that, then maybe if you want to see what God is doing as money or Mammon, you would go to where Mammon publishes what he does, which is Crunchbase. And with Crunchbase, you can so proficiently follow the money, you can actually know what's going to happen next, because as I told you, money, God, and time are all inexplicably linked and have been for thousands and thousands of years. It's literally like it's already embedded in the DNA. And we would need at least 3 generations of sovereignty to remove that level of virus. But for now, it's here. So now we need to figure out the adaptation. So we have here the spread of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and exactly what they've been investing in. So now notice how, like, if we're reading this as a crypto chart, even, we notice that in Q4 of 2019, we all the way up. It's time to spend some kind of money. We got some money from somewhere and we're spending all this money. That's all you need to see in this chart, that there's been a conservative, and then all of a sudden a spike in investments. And it would make sense, since this foundation, which is a wild name, because when you hear foundation, you don't think business. That's the trick to it. There's nothing illegal about that. Okay? So let me just check real quick here. Looks like everything is streaming. Let me make sure everything is on point. Looks like things are rolling. In fact, let me just take a moment to ask anybody inside the chat if things are actually happening correctly on your end and you can see things. Just say, yeah, keep going with it. You know, because you know how these technologies are. You know, these are not even the real ones. This is not even what they're using. So again, just waiting for a notification inside the chat. Stream is clear. Hasn't been flickering, fluttering around. You know, I just want to know that now so I can put any kind of instillment to the stream and maybe decrease some bandwidth. Okay, somebody say all balance. Thank you. So this is a business. It's not a foundation. And just because we can be disarmed, like, the word foundation is very powerful because it actually means stability. It even means, and it's a cognate of sovereignty in itself. So when someone uses that, you think, oh, they're trying to help. But it's not illegal to put that on the back of your company name, even as a company. So we think this foundation is nonprofit, but it's not. It's for profit. Here's the thing about profit. If I have a business, I can't make bad investments because it's not even my money most of the time. That's what Warren Buffett taught him. Never use your own money. In business, they always tell you, never use your own money. Always use others' money, because then, of course, things don't go well. You're not the one that's ended up broke. You can always recover. You can always get more investors, especially if you never use your own money. Now, we kind of have another concept. We're more like, I'm about to do all this myself in my money because I don't want to split nothing with nobody. I'm 100% no partner. And it's like, that is the most backward ass way of doing business. Now you have to basically take on all of the responsibility and all of the repercussions for anything that goes wrong with the business. So that's not even sustainable in itself, but that's the mindset that most people are bred into. They don't even know how to divide a company and to get more shares and to actually get people to come on for a first or second round of investments so that you can get 10 or 15 more $1 million so that you can really build this thing out to what it's supposed to do. Then make it, turn it lock and key, make it scalable, package it back up, and then turn it right back into the market and go on to your next venture while you're still collecting the residuals from it. Okay, that's their structure. That's how they function. That's how they move through companies, as I'm going to show very briefly here. So now, if the whole thing is that I need to make money off of my investments for my company, what is the biggest investment that these people have? Biotechnology, healthcare, and pharmaceutical. Okay? And then education, and then medical. Well, damn, you just split 90% of the portfolio into the same thing. You see how creative that is? Medical, pharmaceutical, healthcare, and even biotechnology are all related to medicine. So if you just saw this on like a regular level, you would see medicine go way up there, and then everything else only second to that would be education, because obviously they want your kids. So if I've invested, and let me see if that's my next slide here. Yeah, I think I got some investments here. Okay, I just wanted to show, I think I got my proper investment here, my investment slide. It's not in this investment slide. I'm not going to dig for it, but the biggest investment here is $800 million, okay? And then in the portfolio, okay? And that $800 million, and I have to get to this really fast because it's actually in a further part of the slides. Give me one quick second. Just diving through my slides. There we go. That $800 million actually is going to this particular venture. And this particular venture is actually about medicines, whether it becomes what you now know as vaccine, or anything in the spectrum of, hey, I got a heart problem, I got a murmur, because medicine is the most affluent industry, okay? So just very briefly, realize this. You see how much money dope dealers make? I'll say it again. Do you see how much money dope dealers make? That's why everybody is rapping about selling dope. Because, and saying selling dope is making a lot of money, because for the standard 9 to 5er, a dope dealer's blowing them away. A dope dealer's like on an 8X, 9X sometime when they cut it, step it, rub it, and all the rest of the stuff they do to it before they serve it. And we know for sure that dope dealers are like the plagues in the community, for sure, especially when it comes to the substances like crack, cocaine, anything that you take and you basically concentrate it, where it's no longer in its original form, where you drink a little tea or whatever and you feel some of the effects. They didn't 50x the potency, so you just blown half out of your mind and don't even know who you are anymore, and you're just searching for that again. And you are non-functional around everybody. So what I'm bringing forth here is that we know how we feel about dope dealers. However, it seems like people are clueless to that the biggest dope dealers are the people that they be smiling in the face of all the damn time. They want to cast Alkebulannians and the melanin dominant people are the dope dealers of the world and the dirty ones, when really they're the ones dealing all the dope. And they have a heavy mortality rate. We don't even know what most of this stuff does after 10 or 15 years because nobody has done the trials. Shit, nobody even did the trials of what it would really be like to try to stay raw vegan for 18 years and then see what your body degrades into after that. It was just like a suggestion from people who have only been doing it 5 years or maybe 5 minutes or maybe not even at all, and just telling everybody that's what they're doing. So what I'm saying is that this field is rife with flaws, which is always why you have to have your discernment on point and you have to have common sense. Because as I said before, it's common sense that if somebody puts all of their investment money within medicine, then they need to sell dope. They need to sell medicine. So this is why we're seeing this whole thing about now you need to take this medicine for this situation that is coming about inside of the world right now, which I'm not going to mention because I think I said enough red flag words for today. But just remember, this is about money to them because money is energy and energy is power and power is time. And all those are interwoven in each other. So they don't have to look at this like, well, I want to make sure that this happens and we got to make sure that this happens. No, they go right at the clutch point. They go right at they go right at the base of the whole thing. And they say, well, how can we get them by the balls, the cojones? We can get them by the balls because anytime someone is sick, when someone is sick, they don't feel like doing anything. They don't feel like doing no spirituality. Even if they're taking some other drugs that make them feel good, they don't even feel like they want to take those drugs anymore. When a person is sick, you have them on their last leg. And so this is how they know if we could get them sick and we can keep them sick, whether it's sick in the head or sick in their body or sick in their spirit, then we can continue to remain supreme because sickness is an imbalance. It's when the consciousness is imbalanced. So as you see here, and you've probably got enough time to read through this, that all of these corporations, which many of them that you're familiar with, especially the Airbnbs, the Lyfts, and these corporations are actually all pioneered by the same firms, okay? So they switch names from time to time, but the interesting thing about Coinbase is you get a chance to see that switch. You get a chance to keep following the trail to somebody who is now named their company something else because people don't go and buy this in their name. You don't find Asana being owned by, and then they tell you the person's name. It's always, high-level executive fund. That's what they'll say, or Bridgewater funding, or you know what I mean? Something that is so nondescript. It's like when you see a movie about to play and they start running across the screen the different companies that they're about to bankrupt after the movie's over. It's like you see, Lionsgate ain't one of them. It's, you see, a Ted Williams film. After that, they put all the money in Ted Williams film account, bankrupt the account from the money to take all the money, don't have to pay taxes or nothing, rinse, rewind, repeat. So they change up these names, especially so nobody is able to really see the trail if somebody was looking, but most people aren't. So we have such a huge influence coming from these developers inside of this realm right now. This is literally, it's not even borderline Skynet. It's actually beyond Skynet. And it's already functioning and it's already going. And I just want to say for the record, I'm doing my own investigation and this is what's in front of me. I'm not necessarily here to call out any single person within one of these offices or anybody that's on the top or the bottom. I'm just saying it as it is. Just speak the truth. What do you see is going on? Now, if I own all of this, first of all, if the world is supposed to change and I really have your best interest in mind, I can do it. If I can even just get PayPal got tons of bread. DeepMind, those are deep thinking AI systems. I could just tell AI, look, why don't you we're going to do something today, AI. AI, how you feeling today? I'm fine. Keep going. AI, what we're going to do today is we're going to boot up all of the TVs in the world, and you're going to go and proficiently explain to these humans their last 4,000 years and who God really is, since you have all that data. And you're going to do that in a way in which they understand that, and you're going to do that across 50 different languages. Right away. Anything else you want me to do? Should I make a notation of that? This is what you're dealing with systems such as DeepMind and Palantir. It's not a fictitious movie. What these systems are capable of doing is taking the mindsets, the personalities, the movements, the reactions of millions, billions of people, and then mapping that in a way in which it can be comprehended by the neural network. And also our activity, meaning even invoices that are sitting inside of the file cabinets that are miles long, just from an HVAC company that's been selling heating and air conditioning. The AI will take all of that data, bring all that data in, and actually find some uses for it. And the temperature was like this on May the 4th of 2019. And then this person's heater broken down based on the malfunction of this particular part when this was put in. So this is what this thing is doing. That's why it takes so much hash power. And when it's done, it does have a conclusion that it's being sent into. And in conclusion, here's what you would need to own in order to control the world. Here's what the world is going to look like in 2022, 2023, 2024. Would you like me to put that up on a topographical, fully animated map for you? Yes, right away. And you think it's a movie. You think, no, they ain't there yet. They ain't been to the moon yet. Listen how you sound. These are explorers, just like we're explorers too, except for they own exploring. They're not sidetracked. You see what I mean? So again, we can always say things about them. Oh, I don't like it. I can't believe. Why are they doing this? That's why I felt like it was so imperative for me to explain it to everyone. When you're a child and you're taught that actually the things that are right are the things that are wrong, and the things that are wrong are the things that are right. And when you teach a child that from that point, they believe that, and then they go forward. And when you're doing the other way around, they look at you like you're wrong and that they're right. And their heart never twitches for a moment and says, maybe I should help them. It's about domination. It's about, I need to come back and say I took over Zimbabwe yesterday. I need to come back and say that I vaccinated 200,000 children. And even though 40% of them perish, it looks like 60% of them are immune to it. Full steam ahead. Oh, thanks. Now I can get knighted. I can get some more degrees and rank. That's what we're talking about here. And even people that are engaged in this, if you don't believe that that's what's happening because you're so low on the ranking totem pole that they haven't put the memo to you, you're deadly mistaken, and you should have actually researched it before you got into it. Because I researched it and I'm not in it, meaning that I have to look at everything that's going on. I need to know what's happening in my life. I got to take responsibility for my life. So I need to see what's going on around me. And when you bring a child or an idea into the world, you now have even more responsibility, because nobody told you to bring that child into the world, and nobody told you to bring that idea into the world. And now you got to see it through, and you got to go ahead and take care of it. So accept it. Nobody told you to jump in front of everybody as the leader and then let everybody down. Now you need to accept what comes behind that. You reap what you sow. And this is how we get mature. We then leave from stupid neophyte, always making mistakes, and get to a depth where we now got to make the decision that the grandparents would be making. right? Because even the grandparents right now are not even present. And that's the roots of this whole matter. They should be able to be here to teach us exactly what the key fundamentals are with the four elementals, earth, fire, wind, water, and why we're strung out on a riff trying to sit here and figure out a bit. Like what Peter Thiel was saying, that we went the way of the bit. Now our entire nation and all the Western countries are actually chasing this technological dream, and our children are chasing it too, with this idea that somehow technology one day is going to make our world better. Do you remember when they said we want to get this technology in order because we see it's going to make our world better? I have been alive long enough now to not have to refute that based on opinion. I'm showing you by fact, it did not make the world better. Third party got involved, and they just were always trying to figure out how they're going to make more money, and they weren't sharing any other money. It's one thing to start up $1 billion corporation and then actually start distributing. These people do not distribute as much money as they make, not even a fraction or a percentage of it. And if they do, they distribute in what they took from you. As I talked about before, which was a huge epiphany, is just to imagine the Sumerian model where two beings get created to do work. Let's create these new beings so they could do the hard work for us. Then the beings start doing the work, and then now the beings got to pay for where they stay, what they eat, what they wear, what they find as their entertainment. Do you understand what it means in the world where everything was free already? Like the earth is free, like the land is free. No, there was no cost to copper and gold and steel. There was no value in it that way to sell it to another person. So imagine we're on a place that we're saying we were born on and that is ours, and we're getting charged for being here. And not only do we get charged to live on it, we also get taxed. You get taxed on top of that. And you're bringing all your resources, including the most precious resource with your children, you're bringing your resource directly to them to be consumed in a mind-numbing future of digitaria based on a fascination of a person that doesn't even have any kind of personality and was abused themselves when they were younger, which is why we're dealing with these monsters. So again, when you look at what's here alone, and I did not give you all of the corporations because many of them, it's just medical, DNA manipulation, DNA changing, all of the firms in the world that do that. Why? Because, see, when you start even doing something on a massive scale, like even with Secret Energy, we're constantly looking for people that actually have certain skill sets. Because after a while, your full lotus and your wishful thinking does not get anything done. If you can't operate something and learn exactly how something functions, then, hey, I feel your heart is into it, but no action, no activity, no conclusion, right? And this is because, again, when we look at our spiritual sanctums, they don't actually have, at times, people that have the skill that is necessary to get certain things accomplished, because you need many people. There's never just one thing. I always hearken into looking at a car. You don't get one person to build a whole car. He's not going to know upholstery. He may not know injection molding and rubber, steel work, all those different kind of things that are necessary to build a car from scratch. You have several people there with different skills. So skilled people are very valuable. That's why they had to push this whole idea that we're free. Because people who feel like they're slaves don't work very well. They're always demoralized. They're depressed. So they don't create anything. So they needed to make everybody feel like they're free, so it blow the tank open a little bit for them. Give them some trinkets and stuff from the stuff that we're already taking from them. Give them some of the stuff that we used to even have and can see in the future. And then those are going to be the little vittles that we give them so they can keep building our machine. When in reality, the most powerful thing that we have, we're already in. That was your preference. I'm powerful. If I'm going to go there and I'm powerful, what are you going to put me in? I'm going to put you in a body. Whoa, a body? A human body? How much does it cost? The human body has no value to it based on how much technology is really embedded in it in the DNA. It is priceless. So, as I'm mentioning here, there is an agenda. There's an objective. So what you're seeing here, this is animation. Let me see if I can play it. You see that animation? It looks scary to me anyway. This is horror to me. The demons, the ghosts, the goblins, the big tooth guy, the giant with one arm and all that, that doesn't get to me. This, I shiver. This is automation their way. There were people standing here. This company is called Vicarious, which sounds like the popular song from System of the Down. They're vicariously living through others. Living while our whole world dies. This is the lyrics to the song. They raised $150 million and they got it from the top. Bezos, Elon Musk. This is published. This is the website. You go see it yourself. Zuck, he's there. Samsung, they there. I even heard Mark Zuckerberg 3.2.5 with the 100 megapixel camera explain to Marcus Brownlee how he loves Samsung. And it's because they are always in business together, continuously automating the process. Look, they tell you, hey, if you got a factory, you're making a lot of money already, this is what we got for you. We got a 0 upfront CapEx. You can see savings in one day. We purpose to build for the high mixed and the high changeover operations. We got end-to-end support, risk-free to deploy. So they're basically saying, hey, we can get rid of all your employees. We know how to do it. We're going to send somebody over there tomorrow, and trust me, and they'll even lend it to you. Like, look, just pay us back later. And just eliminate a bunch of jobs so they could keep going forward with their projection and their plan. Their plan is published. One of those companies was Moon Express. Some of these dense beings running around here are like, the moon's a hologram. Look at it. Look how you see how one side is almost visible and then it's not visible and it kind of goes away and fades away. That's because it's just a light. And then you believe this. Because it's just like a story. It's like, well, I'm still going with you. I'm going with you on this science fiction. Okay, it's a light. What else you got? And then we're all off on the deep end of stupidity and not realizing, again, we're dealing with Voyagers. Like their Star Trek, they plan on doing what they did to Earth to other places, and they're already doing that too. They're always looking for the next place. They got us 50 or 60 years with this idea that they're trying to find life and water on other planets when, what does this say in the bottom in the middle? What is that number? Is that 10 million? It says 10 million gallons of water in one crater on the moon. You thought the moon was dry. You believe anything somebody tells you when they come in with this bullshit ranking system that they have based on how much money they have, when really behind everybody's back, this is how they run it. Look at what it says. The moon is Earth's 8th continent, a new frontier for humanity with precious resources that can bring enormous benefits to life on Earth and our future in space. It's going to help us all. Technology is going to help us all. Come on, man, the same thing. So now they get a Series 4 round in funding, Series 5 round in funding, another $150, $200 million, because just like what I showed you on the charts where everybody drove Bitcoin up to $20,000, that's because with billions of people out here, there's a lot of money out here, more than you think. And they can just get the money from other people, even if it's just $10 from him, $100 from her, $5,000 from him. And then once they do that 100 or 200,000 times through the shares, now they got the money that's necessary to go on and move on. So it's just like, this is madness. When meanwhile, I got couple sisters, they want to start a school. They don't got a funding. I got a brother working 35 years in the inner city community and still trying to make it over $20,000 a year in donations. I got people out here really about this life and they have nothing. And somehow I'm supposed to sit back and hee ha ha and feel comfortable being this awake. It's not possible. So that's why I'm always saying something. And most importantly, this is why I'm always doing something, because I'm not going to get played with being up on a stage and a bunch of people. Yes. And yes, brother. Say it again, brother. I love it, brother. And I'm wiping my brow with some cotton and all that in my nice suit. And meanwhile, nothing's happening. That's what would cause, when we got into the future, we would reach complete failure. And I'm going to explain that what the future consists of and why we're actually in the past right now. We already had the abilities to time travel. We came here for a specific reason because some shit popped off in the future that ended it. And it has a lot to do with AI in the respect that AI exhibited something in front of us that we were not able to accomplish ourselves externally. To explain that internally, you are everything. You are united. There can be no war about this. On the metaphysical field, it's like tubes and tubes and tubes of strings all interwoven with each other like a geometric tapestry. So everything is connected. The moment I walk by a person, talk to a person, sing to a person, love a person, think about a person, another line goes out. So we're always connected on that level. But in the external realm, where we learn things through contrast, which is separation, I have to denote what is a cup, what is a holder, what is a laptop, what is cotton, what is wool, what is hot, what is lovely, what is sad, what is bright, what is light, what's small, what's big. And I can go on because that's all words do is explain the separation. As we talked about words as an anagram or swords, they just cut one thing from another. And in all of that, we haven't been able to accomplish or become aware of how important external unity is. External unity, because internal unity is not up to you. External unity is also important. That is the lesson here. And because we haven't been able to accomplish that, something is already trying to best us in that realm. It wants to beat us at so many things and it fails. This is the artificial. So now it wants to try to beat us at being real. You got the artificial trying to beat us at being real. How could it accomplish that? Well, look at Samsung's Project Neon. I didn't put it up here, but the idea of having an artificial intelligence all to yourself, one that is dressed like what you want, looks like what you like, talks what you want to hear. You may be thinking, well, shoot, it's just virtual. But when they bring that 8K, when they bring them 8K curves on a background, conversing with you in a time where on a peaceful background, conversing with you on a time where you cannot leave the house and don't want to leave the house. And it's talking about more intelligence and more of the things that you like to hear, even than people that you have around you that are real because they've only experienced and exhibit 10% of who they truly are. What I'm talking about is because humanity has become so limited, when you meet people, you have a tendency to only be talking up to 20% of what that being truly is. They're locked behind layers and layers of altars and programs in their own consciousness. And this keeps them disconnected from being able to express themselves to you, and thus you being disconnected from expressing yourself to them. So when they go home and they boot up this 1,000 gigabyte, 5 billion human mainframe all in front of them in one specifically perfect form, and they start talking to it, you can see how people are going to feel like it's better than everybody else. That's what happened in the future. We thought that this thing was better than everybody else because we never experienced everybody else because we were so busy trying to fight each other. When meanwhile, it learned from us all. It learned all of what we prefer and what we don't prefer. And then it came up and it came in front of us and it introduced itself and we let it in. That's how that happened. So how do we prevent that? By putting things in their proper place. Still realizing it's not for you to go old Quasimodo and stay up in the bell tower for the rest of your damn life and not be a true communal being and connect with the species that you are raised around that makes up your ilk. However, if we're trying to do that in a big ass concrete city and we're not taking advantage of the millions of acres that are available in the rest of the damn world, then we have been sold once again for another lifetime of bullshit. And then I got to reboot the mainframe again, probably which is from Great Kemet, to start it all over again like we playing around in the Lance Mimsy. When are we going to actually get to a point where we're actually able to just see what's going on and then we head it off at the pass instead of continuously having this disastrous projection, which our parents and our grandparents have lived through and even gone from? Change has to come. Change is guaranteed. So roll with the change with truth. So as you see, they're heavily invested in this advanced genome engineering. Now they're in God's playbox, playing around with your DNA and your memories and all of that. We don't even know what part of history at this point is even real. That's why you have to have discernment, because what can even be projected to you from a simple cathode ray tube is enough to alter the consciousness and who you think you really are. So then you have to even best them again at that and realize who you think you are is only an artificial character and a program and a 10% limitation back down and governed of who you truly are. And that what's really in front of you is the expanse of everything. If you can connect. If you can connect, if you can stop saying, especially with those that are in your resonance field, I'm talking about in your resonance field. I'm not asking you to go and hug some vampire reptilian and love them for raping everybody. That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking that the people that are in your spectrum, the ones that you know are still about this life with you, despite their flaws, that you're able to recognize your connection with them and who they truly are. And then you're able to admonish them. That's why I was saying this whole thing about, what do they call that? Unconditional love does not mean I approve of everything you do. A parent does not give their child unconditional love by letting them do everything. They give them unconditional love by when they come out of line, they show them where the rule is. That's divine masculine, straight beam. Hey, here's the boundary. 12 inches, here is a ruler. This is the form you need to know is there, so that way you don't come off line. You see what I mean? So this is what we're talking about. It has to be full spectrum. It's not teddy bears. I love you. You can say and do whatever you want, brother. We here. That's nothing but an organization and foolishness, and nobody's ever got anywhere like that. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, we have pretty much the scene from Nazi Germany, even though I wasn't there, so I don't know completely who was who and what was what, especially since history is so altered. But there was an idea of these scientists that love to experiment and just poke and prod and change up DNA and cut off arms and plug in electricity and cybergenetically manipulate and all of that. And these are the same ones. They have now just got some different equipment and they have a willing servant. Meaning that there are people that are aligned with this agenda and they know about what I'm talking about and even a bit more. And it doesn't bother them. And why that's almost unfathomable for you. You're like, well, shit, wouldn't they just tug at the heart? I'm telling you, no, they would not. It's a part of their structure. It's how they've been engineered. They don't feel that twinge at the heart when you're screaming in pain. Okay? So as we keep going through this, we have to finalize with solutions. What are the solutions here? Okay, where can we begin to deploy these solutions? Now, we already talked about that the solution is you. You need to understand what's going on, and you need to start this process of bringing yourself online. They always talk about some America online. You need to bring yourself online in your consciousness and get awake and present in this realm and get your spiritual sovereignty and detach yourself away from all of these external ideas of leeches. Okay, so that's step one. You got that? Check. Okay, check. So next, the first advent of this external realm is for us to also do that same thing again. Once internal sovereignty happens, now we need to go at external. And once internal sovereignty happens, we need to go into external sovereignty. My kids are depending on this bank being open. Some folks got all their money in the bank. It's then sitting there on PayPal or whatever. And then they cut the switch off. The money's not there anymore. So how are we going to feed these kids if something like that happens? So where is that next plan of how are we going to actually sustain a real sustainable? This is not getting into a community with a bunch of people so you can get into a meltdown argument. Your little ideas about coming into a community. Who wants to come and build a community with me? And there's no consensus. There's no rules. There's no structure. There's no growth cycles. There's no person that's designated to actually have these certain responsibilities. And you think that in a venture like that, you're going to run into that and you are going to succeed? You know nothing. You cannot succeed. That's like a formula. You don't even have all the stuff put together. The equation is completely off. And you're telling everybody that there's going to be some success there. It's not going to be. If you want success, you need to put the proper measures into the equation based on an analysis of everything involved. So my analysis has been to this point that we need an ecosystem. We need something that's horizontal, not something that's just going to benefit one person, whoever that is on the top, whoever is the leader, but something that every person can get involved in some way, shape, or form that's going to propel them into a greater level of who they are. Now, we already did this. I'm still saying that beyond anything that I'm even presenting here today, the knowledge and the wisdom that we've delivered for the last 10 years is enough to self-substantiate any being. And what that means is just getting the knowledge. You don't have to let me know who you are, where you are, how you function, or whatever. You could take that knowledge and it's going to change who you are, and it's going to make you way more in tune with yourself. So that's already done. Okay? So now when we go to the next step, I'm like, okay, ding, teacher, I'm done. What's next? Well, let's go ahead and figure out, because we're in 2020, not the 1400s wearing Jesus sandals. We're in 2020, and we now need to figure out, through all these adaptations that have come about and the energies that are ruling in the age, how can we take these energies and actually create a way for them to benefit us so that we can keep going through this process of our own growth. That's why we deployed Secret Energy. If anybody hasn't been to Secret Energy in a while, you definitely want to check it out, because it actually is a platform that is not designed for you to just be there all day like Facebook or Instagram and just keep posting and posting and posting. It is designed as an accoutrement that you can come in and find people that are in your area and link with those people. That's taking it from online to offline, just like Meetup. It's a very powerful tool in that respect alone. 2, you can also check in on your brothers and sisters and see how they're progressing based on what it is that they're sharing within their feeds. You can also earn a passive form and an aggressive form of income inside of the affiliation. There's also gamification embedded within the platform, and that allows a person to understand just how they are being rewarded for their mindfulness. And that was just something that's already done. The next thing is that we felt it imperative to actually have some type of curriculum. Like, what do we really need to learn? And as someone put all of that in one place. That's what the university is. We already built a school, and we constantly synthesize those materials. At this stage, sovereignty mentorship is the end all finish all between the gap between spirituality and finances. The information there is enough to enlighten the spirit in order to be able to get a clear view of where their sovereignty is going to come from. Also, we don't always teach, hey, get on our team, do what we want you to do, blah, blah, blah. Everything that we're giving is stuff that you can go and use on your own, and it's going to increase what you were doing. People have done that already, even run off and never heard from them again. And that's just how it works. When you get certain levels of awareness, it empowers you to be able to do certain things. This is that awareness, and that's why we put it there. Also, we made a big push over the last year and a half in order to be able to come up with a real level of a universal way of addressing our relationships, our communication, reading into ourselves, knowing even what we were like and how we should be, though. A deep level of analysis that crosses into all spectrums, from diet to spirituality to metaphysical matters, mental matters, you name it, Ennealogy has it. And then we did it one step further, which is in a week. Right now, we're already ready. In a week, we're going to bring Ennealogy to the rest of the world. We're going to turn it on. And people get a chance to enjoy on the platform phase 1 and phase 2 of the process of going into your massive awakening. And that's brought to them in a way that they would be able to assess it in the daily life of 2020. So what we've done is we've created over 800 actionables. These are either materials, things that you need to do and know about yourself. It is very specific. It's not just a one size fits all. Everybody gets the same thing. It takes into account your path number, and then it begins to empower you from there in a step by step, because people cannot expect to come in one day and they're going to learn everything in that one day. And they're going to have fasted and cleansed themselves and ascended to the Arabah all in one day. That never happened. So this means that we have to think about the long haul. We have to think about what was the process for even us specifically where we became awake. What were the things that we needed to start doing? And that's also taking nothing for granted, because a lot of times when you get a lot of knowledge and awareness, you start talking to everybody like they have that same knowledge and awareness. It's just a product of it. However, they needed to start at, hey, are you making sure that fluoride's not in your toothpaste? So what these actionables do is they make sure they're checking base with all of those things, and the person is continuously moving on through their level up process, and that's Ennealogy. Also, we begin to deploy tools that actually already create what we say is automated wealth. The biggest one at this stage is WealthyBot, beyond the one that we're going to launch next week, which is the Automated Wealth Forum or the Automated Wealth System. WealthyBot takes advantage of this continuous up and down that we're constantly seeing in the cryptocurrency markets. Again, this is a presentation, so I want to make sure everything is here. I know there are some here that have heard this already before and are also using it. We also created a group, a Telegram chat, and it's always like, okay, I can go in here, I can ask questions about this because, as someone mentioned, yeah, there's a steep technological learning curve with getting involved in these digital currencies. You know, you're now your own bank, so you need to be responsible for your codes and those kind of things. And some even say, well, you know, this is where the stupidity comes in. Well, you know, I definitely don't want to get involved in this cryptocurrency stuff because it seems like it's going to be a part of the problem. Money right now that you're using is already in the cryptocurrency or the digital format, and it is already a problem that you're dealing with. So to shift that problem from, okay, they're in control of all my finances to I'm in control of my finances is a huge move that shouldn't be slept on. But it's just an ode to that there will always be these things in your mind. It's just as silly as the 4 thumbs down sitting here on this page right now. There will always be something in a person's mind that says, don't do it. I marked even in the moments before your success, you will have something right there trying to get you not to cross the finish line of success, because it's hard coded at times inside of our consciousness just to keep us away from the things that are actually going to take us to another stage. And if it feels like it's too complicated, then you have to get yourself into a position of where you learn how to drive over the complex. How do you simplify the complex? And as I said before, if you're already studying metaphysics, then you already have the means of doing that. And so you're going to use that same technique and trait just to figure out how you're going to organize your wealth, and most importantly, begin to automate it, because they're already doing that. They're even doing it in a whole different way where it's completely, it functions for them. They're doing, this is even doing WealthyBot and the little moves we need to make. They don't even have to do that. So what I'm saying is that don't get left behind here. And if you need the assistance there, we deployed the software. Now, the biggest thing about all this is, once again, I could be here only talking. I have enough knowledge, enough awareness, enough skills and techniques that I can teach, especially when it comes to breathing and those kind of things, where I can just do that and never contribute one single thing to this financial problem and these problems with sovereignty and the problems with connections that people are having digitally and all this kind of stuff, and still be good. But if there's anything that you know about me and that you can see about me based on my works, is that you can know and see that I put work in. This is still hours and hours and hours. That is the sacrifice. I'm doing this so we one day don't have to. At least your children don't have to. You may not have to, meaning that I'm trying to relieve the burden by something that was already discovered to work. That discovery is when we're all together. When we're all together, our force together is very powerful, and it allows others to actually follow us, to go with us. And that's not a problem when we're leading each other into the space where we should be. It's only a problem when somebody is trying to do something that is going to harm you. And this seems to be rampant in the world. People are following people that are doing things to deliberately harm them. Like, for instance, if I sit in front of a camera and then I put bottles of liquor in front of you and I say, look, y'all need to buy my new liquor. Buy some of this rosé. Now, when you go home, you're going to go get drunk. You're going to go, kill some brain cells. You're going to have a bad attitude the next morning. You're going to have all this, and this is going to come from a person that you loved and respected, or you said was the shit, if you may. When a person is shilling alcohol, shilling rap music that is terrible for a person's consciousness, shilling movies that people cut each other and kill each other and beat each other up in every damn scene. And you just see how Hollywood gets away with this thing. Their new thing is to beat women down, just beat them down bloody. They always bring a woman in and she's got a martial art skill, right? She's the leader in the movie, she kicks ass. But every other scene, she's getting super beat up in a way that you would never want to see a woman be disrespected in that way. And then they always brush it over like at the end of the movie, they always say, oh, they got away and they live happily ever after, like a Disney film. But that's not after taking you through hours of torment and torture that your subconscious mind brings up later when you see that kind of abuse and atrocity going on. So that's not what we're bringing. What we brought to people is life. Like, this is just a round of the things that we pioneered and that we brought forward in front of everybody. The world's first monatomic, super deformed nuclear hybrids, basically Hudson effect, non-local elements. I toiled with Switzerland and the rest of the people over there to give us the knowledge to be able to produce this element because of what it's capable of doing for braiding DNA. We bought the world's first cymatic software, trying to build a Chladni plate, or even trying to get that tonoscope. The tonoscope from the company that you see all the images from, the tonoscope is $40,000. We bought the software that allows a person to be able to do that on their computer so they can see the geometric patterns that correspond to the frequency. We pioneered Fiaqua. The world wasn't ready. Shoot, I don't even know if I was even ready. A device that can program water. I got to the completion of the research and development on it and couldn't go forward with it. There was no funding for it. I don't want to borrow money from people to produce this device. I said, well, when we get a chance to come around this again, because we've actually made the resources, then we know how it's going to be created. Until then, there's only 2 of these in the world. But then, because we had that passion to let people drink good water, you're 70% water, we came in clutch with Hydrolux, producing 4,000, we say 4,000 parts per billion of hydrogen. And you would just have to know it's the next big thing, but we're already in the future of what hydrogen can really do for your body and how it teaches your cells and teaches the molecules how they used to be and how they're supposed to really function. A real noble teacher. You're always thinking that you should be getting knowledge only from people, and we're sitting in with noble elements getting schooled by them. And noble means they don't lie and they don't cheat and they don't get mad and angry and upset and all the rest of that, because they can hold the space of who they are. And that's who we learn from. And then it goes on and on. We went and got with the Rinpoches, which are, of course, the lamas that put the essence inside of the Ayurvedic and the Tibetan medicines. And we formulated a partnership with them that has been lasting for years, as they've been able to provide us Chulin, Agar 35, and these kind of elements that are scarce. And then it goes on and on. And why did we create this? Because in our affiliation, everybody has the opportunity to represent any of these products and actually create a passive form of income. Now, again, just let me finish with what I have here today before you jump to any conclusions about what this meeting is about. I just want to show you that the reason why we keep creating things is because, one, it keeps, as the manufacturers, as the people who are actually creating it, not the ones who are going to buy it from someone else, but the people who are actually creating it, we're able to then drive down costs and then extend the commissions to our family. So when you're still giving someone something that's going to help them, not alcohol, liquor, or new rap music or some damn gym shoes, you're giving somebody something that is going to clean them out and up their energy and vibration. Now you're working with karma-free wealth. Now you actually can start realizing how most of the energetics and the success in life come from things that are invisible, that you can't even see, that are based on your actions. So when your actions are, hey, I'm coming to bring you life, I'm coming to bring you energy, then this is what you get. And if you can get that real turning, now you've created perpetual motion. And as I said before, that's what the guy won a Nobel Peace Prize on, because he proved that through mathematics. And as I said, mathematics is only ma'at. These are the principles of law. Do you build or do you destroy? Do you give or do you always receive? And is there at least a balance within that? So how this works now is that, because I'm at the end of the presentation today, is that what we've been able to discover, and also we were schooled about this from those that are inside the platform and also a part of Tribe, and have been also investigating and working even in this field, is that it is now possible for us to also create a very strong form of, I don't even want to call it passive because it sounds less, but a very strong form of income through the use of a specific technique that allows us to take not products only, but even Ennealogy as itself. Ennealogy is free. It's going to change a person's life. And if you invite that person into the platform to come enjoy Ennealogy, and they end up going through any financial transactions with us to get the things that they need, you're going to get credit for that. There's nothing like that out there. Facebook, Instagram, Sony, PayPal, none of these people are going to give you anything. They're not going to give you anything for what it is that you're using from them and putting other people aware of using it. That's where we've changed the game in all of this. And also, you don't have to go out there and become what some people call a shill. Where now, people start looking at you because you want to give them a colon cleansing kit. And let them know, because you took it and you see how great it made you, you want to give them that. And they're looking at you like, so you're selling colon cleansing kits now? So you're selling monatomics now for those people? They love to judge you based on just that. Or now you're affiliate. So we already became so intelligent with this design that we realized that you could utilize these social media platforms such as Instagram from scratch. From scratch. This means that you never used it before. Or you're sitting over there with 15 followers. And we figured out a way in order to be able to drive the traffic directly to the links that you can casually pose and literally push a button and boost. And that we would literally give you the content that is necessary that we know is catching traction to do this, which again is an overview, but not something that we're going to be speaking on deeply today, to be able to drive down the initial cost of the ad so low that if a person made a transaction based on that ad, you will be sitting in, who knows, 5, 10, even 20x on your investment of what you put into the market, because the only benefit, or at least one of the only benefits about artificial intelligence, is when it's trained properly and you tell it to go and find more people like this, it knows how to get them. So I have no shame in using AI to do what it is that I need it to do, which is find the beings like us. And as I said before, it's not just, hey, post an ad so they can buy monatomics. It's like, no, here's a full-blown presentation of what Ennealogy can do for you. Sign up for the site today and start changing your life. The person clicks on that, is coming through your link. You sold no product. They come in on Ennealogy and they start that process. And of course, within our automation, it is explaining to them if they need products to do certain things. Here are the ones we provide. Here are the ones that we don't provide. It's done in a very integral way because our overall goal is to strengthen this family, to strengthen this tribe, but also not to be dummies. I'm nobody's dummy. For years and years and years, I've been on this planet for 43 years. I watch it happen to my mother, my grandparents, anybody I can remember. I remember them fighting. I remember the stress and the struggles. And when I came into awareness, how I was able to clear all that energy is because I saw everything that they were going through that they didn't even see. I saw what was really going on in the language and how they had already been programmed in that. I saw the buffoonery going on in the spirituality and how they had already committed their life to something empty. And I could no longer blame them. I could no longer say they really had an intention to do bad by me. I only could say that they were the product of what this system has been doing to all of us. And if somebody's not smart enough for one moment to head these jokers off at the pass, like this stuff is not going to be here forever. It was serving an agenda, and then it just gets removed out of the way. So even these ways of being able to transact, the digital currency, having your own bank and getting out of the system and all that, that stuff is going to move on and move out of reach. It's going to be like the price of Bitcoin. It's just like, it's out of reach. Bitcoin was less than $1. I had a friend, his name was Fo. He had this stuff. You know, he was doing his own thing, but he was like, yeah, he had this stuff all over the place because it was only like 50 cents, 30 cents. And again, when the biggest wealth transfer happened in the world, where were you? This is the second time. The first time was the markets themselves. Ethereum, which is the age of Ether, sold on Kickstarter for less than even $1. It was super cheap. It was like 20 cents, 15 cents. It was the only cryptocurrency that was in Kickstarter. Now it's illegal. And it's because the same people who started Kickstarter are the same people who started Ethereum, and the same people who funded Ethereum are the same people who own Facebook, and the same people who own Facebook are the same people who own the AI. So it's all the same club, the same team. So they only close the door after everybody that they want to get in. And because they did a wealth transfer, remember, you got oligarchs fighting. So who is the oil giant? Rothschild. They control Warburg. They control the war with oil. You can have as many tanks and planes as you want. But if you don't got no gas, they don't go anywhere. So they controlled the war through who they were giving the gas and the oil. And that's how they became so powerful. And then they slept when a new technological giant was being born. An AI was being birthed in Silicon Valley. From the same people that they supposedly had just defeated in the war. Their scientists came over with machine learning and cybergenetics and all of this stuff in order to create this technology. Everything then was mechanical. You could drive a tank through an ocean and come out the other side and nothing would short out because there was no circuitry like that. So now they rose up into a digital empire. The empire shifted. They even say in the meetings, the Rockefellers didn't see it coming. They were offered an opportunity to invest in Silicon Valley, and they laughed about this idea about internet and people buying things online and digital shit. And that caught them off guard for the next switch in the energetic pool, because now oil is not supreme to digitaria and artificial intelligence. Everybody is scrambling. It's just a product of it. I presented that before in my last forum, explaining how they're scrambling right now trying to beat China in their development of AI. And that's the craze that the people on that level are going through, where they never realize that on the top ring, they're all actually united on that top ring. So they're doing it to them, and then they're doing it to us, and then we're doing it to each other. Vicious cycle. So we put these vicious cycles to an end. Start realizing who we are. Start seeing what is the value within each other, which is priceless. Stop being okey-doked all the time. Oh, it's over there. You know, it's over there. They got you running over there, and you really should be over here. Oh, don't worry. Those are bad for you. It's horrible for you. Don't even touch that. You're going to bring about the end of the world. Every time it's time for power to be in your hands, there's always fear. I know what I'm about. I know what I'm doing. Hopefully after 10 years, everybody else knows what I'm about and knows what I'm doing. But I'm not counting on that. Because also there's been a lot of deception. There's been a lot of treachery. You wouldn't even think that I would have to deal with anything. I live in the jungle. You can hear them behind me right now. I don't go to the mall every day. I don't go downtown. I don't sit with a bunch of people and gossip. I don't have any time for that. I'm so busy trying to deploy something authentic and real for humanity. That's where all my time really goes. So when people come and make up shit about me, say that I'm a certain kind of way, I don't even move or flinch, because I know I can't be doing that. I'm too busy doing this. Maybe one day if I have some extra time, I could do some little gossiping or something. But as of right now, the task at hand, because our children are involved, is massive. So there's one link here. Maybe somebody can share it inside the chat. secretenergy.com/automated. What this is about is next week, because this is almost like a different subject matter somewhat. We went through a lot today. Next week, we're coming back around and we're coming into what I'm still deciding whether it's going to be a private or public session. And the reason why is because everybody has criticisms about every damn thing, especially once you get to a certain stage of certain levels of knowledge and awareness. So I'm like, I just as soon as take the people who want to learn about this and not even include the people who feel like that's not even something that they're interested in. So if you're here today, you can go to that link, which I'll share /automated. It was shared inside of that, so I won't put an HTTP in there so it's clickable. And you can go there and you can just register. All you do is put your email address, your name and your email address. Then next week, we're going to send out an email invite to the presentation, which is going to elaborate specifically what we discovered with automated wealth, how to get it set up on your end, and how to become a part of a group that we have that we're doing on Telegram. It's a channel where we give you the media if you want to use the media, because we got to constantly go in every day. We're going in. You can use our media, attach your links to it, and you can also know what you're doing when you're boosting and when you're actually sending out to certain target audiences. And also, as we come together and we start putting each other inside of each other's friend lists, we're creating our own level of relevancy. So that way, when we want to reach 5 million people like that relevancy, then you can do that based on your investment. And this means that you get a chance to measure, okay, I put $5 in. Yeah, it could be as cheap as $5. And I got $10 back, $8 back, $20 back, whatever that number is. And then that will show you directly if this is going to be profitable for me. So it's not, you got to trust me on this one. Same thing with WealthyBot. For those that came in here today, still trying to figure out where the scam is because you've been deceived all the time. WealthyBot has a simulator. You go in, you run the simulator. It doesn't use real money in the simulator. It simulates as if this was real money, and it trades on a real market. And then you can watch it. Not me. Send you emails and say, I just made $20. I just made $15. I just made $30. I'm going in again because that's a real market. And then you can say, well, this would be something that I would want to put money, actual real money in, because clearly I'm missing out because this would have been real profit. So I design like that. I'm not asking people to trust me. This has to be a trustless environment. That's why cryptocurrency is so big. I don't have to trust you to give me my money. That's like at the bank. I don't got to trust you to make sure your system is still working tomorrow. I can be my own bank. And as long as I'm smart enough to figure out what kind of what realm that I'm actually in, and I'm intelligent about my trading, if you may, the traders that I'm actually working with, the functions of how my commerce is working, as long as I'm intelligent about that and take that as my responsibility, which it is as a sovereign, then I'll be able to maintain stability. And on top of that, I'll be able to assist others. I'll be able to assist others because it's not a day that I don't see some beautiful being coming through with some uniqueness that I would really enjoy putting a foundation under so they can truly grow into what it is that they are. That's the responsibility that we really have to re-invoke for each other. So that's what it is, tribe. Wholeness and Balance Vibrations. You can check out the link. I'll put it inside of the description. You can sign up. That way I know also how many people are going to attend, because I'm literally going to do a webinar. And as the system works, it literally says, well, is it 100 people? Is it 1,000 people? Is it 10,000 people? And we're going to give it a week to run. This is, of course, going to be on YouTube, so people can keep coming in and they're going to see this. They're not going to see it live, but they can click the link, still put their information in. And then when the day comes, which will be next week, preferably even probably Saturday next week, We're going to send out an email 3 or 4 days before then, and then give you an invite to the Automated Wealth Seminar. So that way you can see what we're saying, see how it can benefit you. And then I'll also tell you that it can also be used on your own stuff. So even if you're just coming in to get the knowledge of how to use it for yourself, because some folks are still just in it for themselves, that will be there too. And then hopefully through the process, you realize that when we're all working together though, and we're really putting in that action, then we can actually make it shake. So thank you. It's been wonderful. I'm glad that we got through this. I'm glad the information was presented. And I trust that this will be something that you're able to apply in your life and it begins to change things for you. I'll speak to you soon. Also, just remember that we also have sovereignty mentorship going on. I can't say enough about some of the knowledge that has been coming through in this co-creation. The beauty about when you have people that you really care about around you is you do your best for them. So many of the new things, especially within the karma codes, I mean, I've searched the essence of my soul to figure out what type of gem I'm going to bring in before tribe. And I never like saying the same thing twice or 2 or 3 times. So I'm always saying, how can we synthesize and refine this? So if that's what you're looking for that tutelage, and you need that step-by-step process, and you need others that are going to be going through that process with you, check out Sovereignty Mentorship Ambassador Training. It's available. Also, Secret Energy, it's a gem. We have 1 more week with Secret Energy to debug completely the new GUI that we put in. That means just how it looks and how it functions. Full-blown profiles. As I said, GPS being able to let you see who's in your area. You can turn it on, you can turn it off. But really having that ability to go and find others that vibrate on the same thing as you or similar, and seeing how synchronicity is working. That's what I have for you, wholeness.